All right, good morning, everyone. I think we might be a tad early. Either that or my clock is a tad slow. We're a couple of minutes. We're 2 minutes. Do we care? No, we don't care. So good morning, everyone. Here we are again. Yes, it's Thursday morning. We are live on our YouTube channel. We've got lots of questions today. Yes, as you can probably see, I've got Cachorro with me. I'm going to get him to stand up in a minute because yesterday he had his hair cut. He has a haircut every month to 6 weeks, and so he looks just like a little puppy because I have him shorn right down, almost to the bone, but not quite to the bone, and he loves it because it's very hot here in Florida, so, and he has lots of thick hair, so we have to shore him, or have him shorn, should I say. All right, so to my right is, as always, my spirit guide, Grey Eagle. To my little bit further right, say good morning, Madeline.
Good morning, Madeline. How are you? Oh, I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, so we have my sister here, as you can see, crazy as always. And to my very far right, we have Carolyn. Carolyn, say good morning.
Good morning, Carolyn.
See, they're both at it now. They're both at it. I'm the only sane and sensible one here, it seems.
And if you believe that.
You'll believe anything. All right, so we're going to sort of take your questions. We're going to take live questions. We're also going to take, we're going to take questions that we have on email, through Meetup, and where else? Facebook and YouTube. Twitter and all of those things. We have questions from all of you. We can only answer a few, obviously, but we're going to take those questions. But before we do begin this morning, I would just like to mention a situation that I had yesterday. I spoke to a mother who lost her daughter, and it was a very tricky situation because the daughter was struggling with all kinds of problems, and the mother was struggling obviously with the loss of a daughter. She'd only been gone a few weeks. But the guilt that wraps a mother, that wraps around a mother and a father, I'm sure, the guilt that wraps around us, when, especially even when someone passes in a normal way, if we'd done that, if we'd have done this, if we'd have noticed this soon, and so on and so forth. Guilt is a part of grief, and we all go through that guilty feeling. What if we could have done more? And especially when it's your children, of course, parents are always, we mostly anyway, we try to be very protective of our children, and we're, so that guilt thing sort of does wrap itself around us. But when we have a child who takes their own life, then that guilt is major, it's huge. And, if we're not careful, if we don't understand it, and we don't understand what happens, that guilt can stay with us for our entire life. And what we tend to do in those circumstances, what parents tend to do when they lose a child in this way, they tend to focus on what they didn't do, or what they could have done or should have done differently or better, instead of focusing on all of those years of growing up, all of those years of nurturing and loving and caring. And those in the spirit world will often help us, as I think the lady who I spoke to yesterday, as her daughter did, because we were able to make contact with this young lady, and we were able to, she was able to give her mother some idea of what happened and what she was thinking when she did what she did. And when I say she committed suicide, not in the usual way, but she just knew that what would happen if she didn't take certain steps. And so she just didn't take those certain steps because she'd just simply given up. She'd given up. And so her mother feels, very, very distressed. What could she have done? What should she have done? And it turns out that she did everything right. And I know when you think of parents whose children pass in this way, when they die in such an awful way, you think, well, what kind of parents are they? You might be the kind of person who's going to judge someone else, which is never a good idea, because watch out, because, it could be your turn for someone to judge you just as easily. So we don't go down that judgmental road. But the thing is that most parents do everything that they know how to do. They do the very best that they can do. Even if their best isn't good enough, if they're trying and it's the best that they can do, we should take it and just accept it. And this lovely lady I spoke to yesterday, she was a very loving and a very caring and a very generous mother who was at a wit's end, basically, for 4 or 5 years, as to know what to do with her daughter who had gone down this really awful road, which even from the beginning, you could absolutely, not being psychic at all, you could absolutely predict that the ending would not end well, and unfortunately it did not end well. So if you have any questions regarding those sorts of things and regarding the guilt, or if you know someone who's suffering with, you know, with this kind of thing, just please let us know. We'll do our best to, you know, help in whatever way we can. So I'm now going to go to Carolyn, and Carolyn, let's see. She's busy typing away over there.
Lisa joins us, and she said, "Thank you for addressing suicide."
Good morning, Lisa.
And we've got Dean and a new person, Jahay.
Good morning, Jahay. Good morning, Dean, and everyone out there. Do we have any questions going on yet?
Not from them.
All right. So let's start. Shall we start with a question that we had from our emails? It's difficult to pick them out, but anyway, let's go.
This is a cute one, Albertine. She's a viewer every week.
Good morning, Albertine.
She would like to know, do those in the spirit world have a sense of humor, as in when they see us doing something?
Well, I can't. I think that our characters remain pretty much the same. There's a difference between someone who has a sense of humor but has been suppressed for whatever reason, and their sense of humor has been suppressed, because when we go to the spirit world, there isn't that same suppression, there isn't that same, you know, heaviness, and so maybe they regain the sense of humor that they already had. But there are people out there who have no idea how to smile and laugh, and I know people who have every good reason to smile and laugh, and they don't know how to do it. They just don't do it. It's just not in them to do it. So I think, you know, I can't say entirely that everyone in the spirit world has a sense of humor, but I've had many, many laughs. And truthfully, when someone in the spirit world comes to talk to me or through me to give messages to somebody else, if they don't have a sense of humor, they're lost, because they have to deal with me. And I'm usually laughing most of the time for whatever reason, or I'll find humor even in the darkest situations, because I believe that humor is the one thing that can heal us and that can just really, really, you know, help us through those darkest moments. So yesterday, as I said earlier, I was speaking to this lovely woman who probably didn't think that she would be laughing at all for the rest of her life, perhaps. And I'm going to say within about 10 or 15 minutes, we were laughing. And by the end of our conversation, we were laughing so hard, and she was crying. Sometimes she was crying with laughter. And I said to her at one point, "You didn't expect to laugh today, did you?" And she said, "No, I didn't." But laughter lifts us, and laughter is a healing. It's a tool that we can all use, you know, to help us through. Don't you agree, Madeline?
I do, and it's also a proven fact that laughter is a healer.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
No.
No? And so
Yeah.
that's that.
You have to Google it.
Yeah, Google. Oh, yeah. This is the computer whiz right here. Google it. If you don't know it, Google it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, you can find out all sorts of information. But back to the question, does the spirit world have a sense of humor? Grey Eagle, thank goodness, has, because otherwise, how would he be able to deal with me? So we laugh a lot. My father is in the spirit world. I can't ever remember him laughing. Can you? Can you ever remember him laughing?
He used to make funny rhymes, didn't he? And he used to smile a lot, but not really laugh. I don't remember him having a belly laugh.
I don't ever remember him laughing out loud. But he did have a quirky sense of humour. But there was not much for him to laugh about, to be honest with you. So it's like, and I was having a conversation, I don't know if I ever told you this, Madeline, but I was having a conversation with our older brother a while ago, and I was visiting he and his wife, and he came down the stairs singing away, and I said to his wife, it's funny because I'm always singing away. And my brother said, well, Dad was always singing. And I thought, what? Because I don't remember Dad ever singing. Do you?
And Mum did too.
Did she?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all. See, we have, different.
But I think the one
memories.
thing that runs through all of our family is a good sense of humour.
This really horrible sense of humour we've got. Poor Carolyn has to deal with the two of us. It's bad enough when you're having to deal with me, right? But the two of us. Yeah, I think my daughter, I think it does run through our family that we have. But we're British, of course, so we have that very quirky, weird, and really fun sense of humour.
I think we call it a dry sense of
Oh, you do call it dry?
Yes.
We call it just quirky and fun, but you've got to be quick to catch what we're laughing about sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I find
anyway,
myself often, is she joking or not joking? I'm not quite sure.
yeah, I'll say something to Carolyn in a very serious way. Well, often to people, but Carolyn works with me, so I'll sometimes say something to her that if you were really, really, really ultra concerned about and had no self-worth or anything, you'd think she's having a go at me. Would you think that? But then you think, wait a minute, is she kidding or is she serious? And usually I'm kidding.
Yes, now that I know your sense of humor.
Weird, quirky. Anyway,
we've got lots of questions coming in.
Good, go ahead then. Let's go for it.
We have got Beth, who lost her daughter. She committed suicide
Hi,
last June. She says we never know why they do it. It was over a boy. But her question is, does a spirit just take part of our spirit and begin life on earth? Or when we come back, we have our whole spirit with us? I had a dream we had part of our spirit with us.
Not really sure what she's asking with that question. Do you understand that question?
Not entirely, to be honest. Not entirely.
All right, let me just go this route then, Beth. I'm sorry, because I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, but I'm going to go this route. Each soul is its own individual soul, has its own individual energy, has its own individual character and character traits. When a soul comes to this earth, it comes in its entirety, not a part of. I think I'm going to say that my experience is that a soul comes whole to this life and leaves whole from this life, learning more or learning less or learning nothing, depending on what that soul chooses. But it's possible to come here and learn absolutely nothing at all, and it's possible to come here and learn a great deal. So each individual soul is its own individual. It's like, you can't say, well, I'm a human being, but I'm only going to, take my leg and my arm with me, because that's not how it works. You can't take a piece of something like that. The same as, you can't take a piece of your heart and soul with you. It's in its entirety. I hope I've answered the question to your satisfaction, darling.
She says, thank you. Yes, that's what I was asking.
Well, good. And Beth, I'm so sorry for your loss. But I know that she's with you. I know that she's with you.
Ashley asks.
Good morning, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. It's Ashley. A random question.
A random question? Well, that's all right, too.
I know our loved ones are with us and guide us from the other side. However, is that what they do all day? Look at our every move? I'm so confused. No, sweetheart. No. That's a good question. I know that there are people who will say, oh, I know my father's with me and he's here all the time, or I know my daughter's with me, she's here all the time. And a lovely thought it may be. However, can you imagine from that person's point of view, the daughter or the father, how boring it would be to have to follow us around, when we're watching television or when we're, sleeping or whatever. No, then of course they're not here all the time. However, we're talking about time. Time is of a very different essence than time as we know it here.
So time for those in the spirit world, what we might consider a day might only be a blink of an eye for them. So time is of a different concept, and it is hard to understand. So it can seem sometimes that someone in the spirit world, for instance, I'll ask this question before anybody, I'll address this question before anybody else does. Okay, how can a person in the spirit world be with, say, me and my sister what seems like the same time? She lives in England, I'm living here in Florida. How can my father be with me and with her at what seems like the same time? Time is of a different concept. It's faster, it moves. It's almost as if time has already happened in the spirit world. For us, we're sort of lagging behind it, so to speak. That's the best way that I can describe it. But I can assure you, because I am told all the time, people tell me in the spirit world, tell me all the time what they're up to and what they're doing. Some people like to explore. Some people like to be in the garden. Some people like to be helping angels. Some people, I mean, there are so many things to do, and so many family to visit as well. So, but also, once we go to the spirit world, we have our own learning process, and because we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still processing. So, don't think that they're just simply watching us, because how boring would that be? I can tell you that if it is at all possible, when I pass, I should be with my daughter and my grandson as often as I can. I'll be checking in on them, hopefully on a daily basis, maybe even 3 or 4 times daily, because I'm an interfering mother, and I'm also a very interfering grandmother. So, I mean, I'm going to be around them. I'm going to be trying to see what they're up to. But would I want to be with them 24/7? I don't think so. I'd be bored out of my mind, and I feel that's how most of those in the spirit world feel. Let's have our next question, shall we?
Jahay asks.
Jahay, good morning.
What if a spirit comes through in a medium session that is the person's great-great-great-grandparent? How do you validate them when the person that went for the session doesn't know about this person and might have an inaccurate family history?
Okay, well, if you're in a session with a medium, then you're not just relying on what the great, whoever it is saying to you. The medium will, or should at least, be giving you evidence of her abilities, in as much as being able to tell you certain things that are happening in your life today, or they'll give you evidence that they know something or they see something. I mean, you shouldn't really just be paying attention just because, let's say you come to me and I say, oh, I've got your, great grandmother here. Why on earth are you going to believe me? Why should you believe me? And you shouldn't believe me unless I can give you some evidence that it's real, some clear evidence that you can check on, It's not enough to say, oh, well, it's inaccurate family history. A medium should be accountable for giving you evidence. I'm accountable for giving evidence, and I try my best to do it. Sometimes it's not possible, but if you can't get the evidence, you shouldn't be listening. You shouldn't be believing what you're being told. That's, you've got to be discerning, because, sometimes a medium can be a beautiful person, but not necessarily have as much of a gift as they think they have. So you've got to be very discerning on your own behalf. You've got to be your own advocate in those circumstances. But I will tell you a little story about a young man who came to see me. And he came to me, it turns out, and I didn't find this out until much later, but he came to me because his girlfriend had died in a car crash, and his mother had said to him, if you want to go to someone who is good, you have to go to this woman. That's me. I am that woman. I'm known as that woman throughout the world. But anyway, so he came to see me. And for the whole entire session, all we got was this short little lady with a straw hat with a black band around it. She told me her name was Martha. She described herself, but she then went on, and he had no clue who this was, not a clue who this person was, but she went on to describe everything he was doing. He was in the army or something, I can't quite remember now, but she described his uniform, she described his promotion, she described the house he was building and renovating, she described all of the things that he was doing. So there is no doubt, even though he didn't know her, there was no doubt that she knew him, because she gave him all of this fabulous evidence that she was watching him and that she could see what he was doing. And that's where, you know, the secret lies. It's in, you know, what they're saying to you. What they're saying to you should make absolute sense to you. You should know what it is they're talking about. Well, he was a bit flummoxed, this young man, and he was very angry with me, because although he couldn't doubt the information that was being given to him, he wanted his girlfriend. His girlfriend didn't come through at all. I didn't see her at all. Fortunately, he'd recorded this session. He went home to his parents. His mother and his father were waiting very anxiously. They knew of me, and so they'd heard good things. So they were so excited for him, and he walked through the door, and the first thing his mother said to him is, you know, what was it like? He said, I don't think she's any good at all. I didn't understand who she was talking to. I have no idea, not a clue who this woman was. And he was very disappointed, because his girlfriend didn't come through to talk to him. So his mother said, as good English people do, sit down, we'll have a cup of tea, and you know, you tell me what happened. So we played the tape. They're part way through the tape, and I'm describing this woman. I'm describing everything about her, her name, everything. And his mother stood up. She said, you've got to turn the tape off. And she ran upstairs and came back down with this big old black dusty book that had been under the bed forever and ever, that he had never seen, her son had never seen. And she opens it and she's flicking through. And he came back to tell me this. He said, my heart was pounding in my chest, because I just knew she was going to show me something that would change my life. And all of a sudden she came to this photograph, and she pointed to the photograph, and she said, there she is. She said, that's my grandmother, who is your great grandmother, who you never knew. And her name is Martha. And there she was, with the straw boater, with the black headband and all the rest of it. So, you know, even if you can't verify that your great somebody or another was Fred, you should be able to verify what Fred is telling you, because Fred should be telling you about the things that are going on in your life now. And that's how you verify whether a medium is actually in contact with someone, or whether it's just something that's sort of in her head. Okay.
Vahe says, I think I understand. Thank you.
Good.
Dee asks,
yes.
Can we eat and drink and party if we want in the spirit world?
That's so funny. Yes, you can eat and drink and party. And in fact, I have it on very good authority that when someone passes to the spirit world, although we here we're mourning our loss, and you know, we have our wake, and the Irish know certainly how to do it. They all drink and party and have a great time at a wake, and Scots too, should I say. I've it on good authority that there's a party going on up there, a big reunion, and a lot of joy when someone goes to the spirit world. So that's a good thing. Okay.
Okay.
I think. Go ahead. Didn't we have a question from someone about birthdays and parties?
Yes.
And something like
Yes.
that? While we're on the subject of partying, it sort of crossed my mind.
Sure.
Do you want to?
That's from Paul.
Okay.
Paul asks,
Good morning, Paul.
do our loved ones in the spirit world celebrate their birthdays? It's often a difficult time for us here, reminding us of the loss. What's your advice?
My advice is celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. And the only way I can give you that advice is because in every single case ever that I've ever given a consultation, when it's somebody's birthday, or the birthday is imminent, or it's just passed, that person in the spirit world will say, would you bake me a cake? You know, I want a party. I want people to celebrate my life, not try to ignore it. And yes, they're fully aware, those in the spirit world, they're fully aware of the pain and the heartache that goes along with the loss. But one way to help us is to celebrate the life of that person. The way to celebrate, let me do that again. The way to celebrate the life of that person is to bake a cake, have a party, celebrate, have a drink to that person, give a toast to that person, remember that person, and be joyful about it when you're remembering it. Because, you know, there's a short moment in time, usually, not every time, but usually there's a short moment in time when we're sick or we're dying. Now, that short moment can be 10 years, it can be 20 years, or it can be 2 months, or even a blink of an eye. But there's this moment in time when, you know, when we are distressed, distraught for whatever reason. But what about all of the rest of our life? What about the rest of our life? It's a celebration. And so I also have a parcel coming. It is a live show, right, Madeline? I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, and that's my alarm going off.
I know guys,
and here it goes
this morning, but I am alive.
Thank you. That's my wool for my grandson, I'm hoping, so I can start knitting him his Christmas sweater, which he wants. It's got to be a red one, he says, because red is for love. All right then. So at Christmas time, if you are Christian, I mean, I know a lot of people who, because they've had a loss, they feel they can't celebrate anymore, no matter what it is, a Christmas, an anniversary, you know, some special occasion that you always used to celebrate, and all of a sudden you feel that should stop now. But it shouldn't stop, because those in the spirit world are looking at us and wanting us to be happy and wanting us to find the joy in our lives. They don't want us to sit and be miserable and to grieve for them, because if we're busy grieving for them, how can they move on with their lives? How can they continue to find joy in their lives when every time they look at us, we are suffering and we're miserable, and we're so steeped in our own misery that we're being a little bit selfish about it. We're forgetting that when they come to visit us, they want us to be smiling, they want us to be happy, they want us to be joyful. So please, bake a cake every time it's a birthday, eat it yourself, it's fine, and celebrate it. You know, chocolate cake's really good, right? My sister's having lemon cake and sort of Christmas cake, but not Christmas cake. Who knows? It's her birthday coming up. We're going to show you how to celebrate birthdays. When that time comes, we might even take a little video or two. You just never know.
Don't expect a lot of sense.
No, don't expect a lot of sense. There'll be a lot of cooking. And unfortunately, I have to cook a turkey. My daughter's so disgusted. She wants me to cook rack of lamb instead. So I'm probably going to do a little of both, a little of everything, maybe. All right. So celebrate, 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 Paul. That's my advice to you. I have a suspicion that you know that's the right way to go. And just because every time you celebrate, and every time you remember, and every time you give a toast to that person in the spirit world, you are celebrating the life of that person. And why wouldn't you celebrate? Why wouldn't you celebrate? Your brother Paul wants you to celebrate. I'm telling you right now.
We've got Ambra who says,
Ambra, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My dad and I just celebrated my mom's 75th birthday with a special dinner, a cake, balloons, and everything else we could to make it a special.
Good for you.
We even got her a card.
Yay, yay. And I bet she was kicking up her heels and enjoying every little bit of it. Good for you. Good job.
We've got kind of the same question. One is from DM, and DM asks, if we ask for evidence, why is it not given if they want to confirm that they still exist? And right after that, Dean asks, when a person from the spirit world comes with advice through a medium, why don't they always give their name?
Okay, right. That's two questions then, sort of. Can you give me the first one first then?
If we ask for evidence, why is it not given if they want to confirm that they still exist?
Well, I don't know who you've been going to see, but from my experience, evidence is given. Would you say you sit in
Oh, yes,
a lot of these things? I mean, so if you don't get evidence, then don't believe it. And if you don't get evidence, the doubt should not be for the person in the spirit world of their existence. The doubt should be for the person you went to see. If you come to see me, for instance, if somebody comes to see me and they want to connect with someone in the spirit world, of course they're going to have evidence, because otherwise I could be saying anything at all. Why would you believe me? It'd be nonsense. It would be really dumb to believe someone, you know, just because they say that they're a medium, or just because they say that they can do it. And that's, again, talking about myself as well. If I am unable to give sort of clear evidence, I won't charge you. I'll give you your money back. And it's as simple as that. And I'll tell you, you know, look, we'll try again. If you want me to try again, I'll keep trying until we can do this. But if you choose, you should go to somebody else. And that's what every good, reputable medium should be saying. And if you go to see someone and they don't give you the evidence, ask for your money back. Just ask for your money back, because a reputable person will not even wait for you to ask. They will give it to you anyway. They'll give you the choice. What I do with my clients is I will say to them right up front from the beginning, if I can help you and if this works, that's great. But if it doesn't, you have two choices. I can refund your money, or we can just keep trying until it does work. Most people just keep trying. Sometimes I give the money back because I know that no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to be able to please that person I'm talking to. And so, you know, and then I would advise them to go find someone else. But don't give up on your loved ones in the spirit world. Give up on the medium. Don't give up on the, you know, those you love, who I know are with you and trying to get through to you. And as far as the second question, what was the second question?
Explain that they mean on a personal level without a medium.
Well, you know, then you've got to listen more. Then you've got to learn to listen, and it's not easy, because when is it your imagination and when is it real? And that's when we use the 3-time rule. You know, if you hear it one time, maybe it's right, maybe not. If you hear it a second time, then pay attention, but maybe not. If you hear it a third time, accept it for what it is and just continue on. In my experience also, if you are trying yourself to connect with your loved ones, you probably can do it much better than someone like me, because it's easy. You know them and they know you. But on the other hand, it's very hard to determine what is your imagination, what is real. So, you know, you just have to follow that 3-time rule. That's my advice to you. And learn. You need to learn to listen more. The tendency when we're trying to talk to our loved ones all by ourselves, and we do it by ourselves, is we tend to talk and talk and talk at them, and we don't give them an opportunity to listen. So my advice in that case is go sit in a chair, take, you know, half an hour or whatever it is, give yourself, not an hour, not 2 hours, just, you know, 15, 20 minutes to half an hour. And you say to whoever's there who you want to talk to, this is my 20 minutes. Or my half an hour, I'm going to sit, this is just for you. And if you're around, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're around, I'd love to see you. But I also understand if you're busy, then you have to shut up, sit down, be quiet and shut up and listen and learn to listen. And you know that you're asking questions, you're talking. The person in the spirit world is trying to get a word in and can't get a word in edgeways because you're so busy asking, are you there? Show me a sign, give me this, tell me that, you know, they can't get a word in edgeways. And it's sometimes, especially when it's a one-on-one with a family member, it's not always an easy thing for someone in the spirit world to be able to get going. And if we keep interrupting them, they're never going to get going, are they? So there is a method and there is a way of learning to listen. But I suspect, darling, that you're just, you know, maybe talking too much and not listening quite enough.
Dean's question was, why don't they always give their name?
Well, and, you know, a name is a funny thing. And, you know, sometimes I'll hear a name and sometimes I'll not hear a name at all. I mean, it's not a question of them not giving it. It's a question of what we as mediums can hear and, you know, but to my mind, you can say, yeah, my name is David. And I know, because I've had it said to me 1,000 times, there are 1,000 Davids out there. Well, it's an easy name. The name John, well, it's an easy name. She could pull that name out of the air. It's going to mean something to somebody. But the evidence that you painted, you know, I saw you painting in your house yesterday. You were painting the door frame red. That's evidence. That to me is much more important little piece of information than having a name. What do you think, Madeline?
Totally
would you think a name would be more important, or what would you think?
No, I totally agree.
Carolyn, what do you think?
An intimate detail is much more
sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can remember saying to a man once, and so and so is in the spirit world, and he tells me that you were painting your front door yesterday, and he sort of started to stutter and splutter, and he said, well, how do you know? Because he was actually in a different country. People think all the time, you know, I must have detectives on the case. I've got somebody watching you. Let me tell you, if I could afford to do it, I wouldn't do it. But do you know how much money it would cost to do that? It's a ridiculous idea. All right, next.
Rosie Rose.
Rosie Rose.
Rosie Rose.
Rosie Rose then. Okay, Rosie Rose. Good morning.
She wrote you on Facebook.
Oh.
If you get a message from one of your deceased relatives, how can you be sure that it's good and accurate advice if when they were alive, they normally would give you bad advice?
What a great question. Well, when people in the spirit world come through me, I've got Grey Eagle here. So if the advice is not so great, Grey Eagle would tell me, no, that's not right. Or he would be actually helping that person in the spirit world and coaching that person. And if that person in the spirit world has got any sense, which, you know, most do, even if they used to give bad advice, they do have lots of people helping them before they will come through to give you a message or to try to give you some advice. They'll have had advice themselves onto what to say to you. But again, just because somebody in the spirit world tells you something doesn't mean that you have to follow what they say. It's your choice. I mean, I've many times I've ignored Grey Eagle because I wanted to do this or that or the other or something, and usually I make a mess of it because my choice isn't nearly as good as his choice, let me tell you. But we are human beings and we have to have our choices because nobody can take those choices away from us. And we are therefore, because we have our choices, we are each accountable for our own actions. Madeline, say anything about that one? Choices.
No. Choices. We make good choices, we make poor choices. But you have to be responsible. You know, there's no one else you can blame for your choices except yourself because you made the choice. So,
exactly.
You know.
So you're responsible for yourself, which brings us to Carolyn. Is the ending of it.
Question.
All right, then let's go for the great question, Carolyn.
Quite a few people have inquired that since you have a spirit guide, you should be able to know what your future holds and how to avoid the not so pleasant parts.
Oh, yes. Well, as I just said, if I listen to Grey Eagle all the time, I'm sure that's right. But, okay, there are certain things that he does not help me with, quite rightly, because I'm here on this earth, just like everybody else, to learn and to grow. And he is not my keeper. He is my guide. He steers me. But sometimes I have to make those mistakes myself because it's the only way I'll learn anything at all.
You're a human being.
I'm a human being, and just because he's my spirit guide does not mean he's going to take my rights away from me, and my right to my own choices is something that, you know, he values greatly, and so do I. You know, it's silly to suppose, and so many people say, you know, dumb things. Well, you're a medium. Why didn't you know it? Why didn't you know sooner? Well, you know, I might be a medium, but I'm not all knowing and all seeing, and I'm the first one to tell you that. And certainly about my own life. I do, however, see certain things. I was able, with absolute clear accuracy, I was able to tell my daughter she was going to have a son. But I told her that years before she had our darling boy. when it came to the day, I've told you this story before, she was so mad with me because I was so accurate about the day and all the rest of it and so on and so forth. She was so mad with me because she was not ready, she said. Well then, all right, what time? And I gave her the exact time practically to the second. And then she looked at me and she said, AM or PM. She's so, you know, she was pregnant. She was going through a lot. She couldn't have this baby normally and naturally as she wanted it. And she was very sick. She had eclampsia. So she had, you know, she was all this stuff going on and this awful medication. So she was wanting me to be, you know, I don't know what she wanted me to be. She wanted me to fix it. And so, you know, when she said to me, I gave her the time, she said AM or PM, and I looked at her and I laughed and I said AM. Well, it was only sort of an hour or maybe an hour and a half before she was about to have this baby then. And the panic in her eyes was just so, you know, thank goodness then the nurses came in, the doctors came in, she didn't have any time to think, and she was rushed down to emergency. Sure enough, she had the baby at exactly that time. So there are some things that we all of us have these premonitions. We have this knowledge. Madeline, I mean, you've had certain premonitions, right? You've had certain times when you've thought something or felt something.
I want to know why I can't have winning lottery ticket numbers.
Me
too.
Yeah, me too.
You will let me in on it, won't you, if you do get them?
It depends how much I get. If I get enough, I'm going to share it. If I don't get enough, I'm not. And then the question would be, how much is enough? Right? So, but yeah, I mean, we are human beings, and in some ways, someone like me, I'm dealing with so many people in so many different situations. My lessons are often harsher lessons than most people's, because I need those harsh lessons, because I have to have the wisdom to know how to answer and how to deal with certain situations as they come along to me. So, you know, so anyway, so that's that. Do we have another question? Are we done yet?
No, we do have another question. But are we cooking something? I smell something cooking.
Oh, it's my eggs. I left the eggs on.
Oh, good.
Uh-oh, one burned pan. You know, I was just thinking, I can smell something cooking here. I burnt the eggs. How could you burn eggs? This is what happened this morning. I saw some eggs out. I thought, oh, I'll boil some eggs. Put them in a pan and promptly forgot all about them. Started to get ready. Got involved with all of this. It stinks in this house. Is it smoky out there? Do you know?
No, it's cool.
It's
Ooh, not smoky.
Can you hear the pan? Can you hear the pan? Did you hear that sizzle, people? All right. Can we leave the eggs, please? Let's go for it. Let's. So, look. Here's the thing, up till now, up until right this very second, you've all thought what a great cook I am. But even I can burn eggs very easily. So, on your own head be it, if you buy my cookbook.
Now the truth is out.
All right, so I just burned the eggs. To be honest with you, I forgot all about them. And that's that. Oh. Madeline, could you not let the dog out? Okay, back door 6.
So am I.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So Ashley asks, what's the best time to know when your loved ones visit you? How would you know if they're angry or happy with you?
You know, I was told many years ago, when I first started seeing angels, to my amazement, surprise, shock, you name it, because until that moment I thought the possibility there might be a possibility, but really, were there angels? And then I started seeing them myself, so now I know that they are. And the interesting thing I was told about angels was that when they look at us, when they look at, that when they walk among us, or when they look down from heaven, wherever it is they're looking at us, we disappoint them all the time. I'm sure we do, all of us, every one of us. No matter how perfect a person you are, you're going to disappoint your angels at some point or another, because we're all of us human. But when we disappoint them, or if we do things that might make them angry or upset, I'm sorry about the beeping, But if we you know, do things that make them, that we might think make them angry, I was told that our angels, they look down on us, they watch us, they pay attention to us, but they don't look down on us in judgment. They look down on us with sadness when we do things that we know we shouldn't be doing. They are sad for us. And when we do things that they're happy about, they are joyful for us. But there is no judgment there whatsoever. And I think that with our loved ones in the spirit world, I think they learn to not judge, but to look at us with sympathy and sympathetic eyes, loving and sympathetic eyes. That's what I feel.
Well, that's a comforting thought, I think.
It is a comforting thought, but I've seen it myself. You know, because as I've said, I see angels. I see angels around other people. I see angels sometimes myself. The first time I ever saw an angel, I was completely shocked into speechlessness. Can you imagine that? Me, speechless.
No way.
Right, exactly. But you know, they do. They look at us with sadness when we disappoint them, and they look at us with joy when we do not. And I think our loved ones, our parents, whereas they would have been angry about a situation when they were here, they've got a broader outlook now, haven't they? They can see, they've got a wider and a much broader outlook on things. So they can see, you know, they can see us, and they can see, come here, baby. They can see us, and they can see, come on, sweetie, come on. There's they can, you know, then they're, and you know, when I see people in the spirit world and I'm looking at them, they're looking at me, I don't see judgment in their eyes. I see joy in their eyes, and I see love in their eyes. When they're talking about something that we did that they maybe don't like, they're not judging us. They're trying to help us, and they're trying to help us to overcome it. Okay, next question.
I've got a good moral question that somebody posted on Facebook yesterday.
A moral question?
It intrigued me.
Oh.
Let's say you had just prayed for God to help you financially. You walk into a store to return something. The cashier ends up giving you back way more than what you was purchased. Would you take that as an answered prayer or a test from God?
Me personally, I wouldn't. I'm trying to think if I ever did that.
Now,
because I might have. I was desperate. I don't know.
She didn't know until she got all the way home that the cashier had given her.
That's a tough one then, because
she did end up going all the way back to the store.
Because temptation is great in those circumstances.
But there were people saying, "Hello, that was God answering your question," and then there was other people saying, you know, God's time is infinite.
Put this in my own personal view. My own personal view is I don't think that God would give you anything to benefit you if it did not benefit, or if in fact it harmed someone else.
Totally agree.
All right, let's take this a step further. You pray to God for financial help, okay? And this is, you go to the cashier, she gives you, let's say she gives you $20 more than, you know, than she should have. At the end of the day, remember, she is accountable to her boss. Somebody's going to check that register. And if there's $20 missing, she could be accused of taking that money, or the suspicion could fall on her for taking that money. Or even if it's a pure mistake, very often banks, companies will make that employee pay back the $20. If you're short, you've got to put it back. Whatever the reason, and even if she doesn't get in trouble for losing the $20, and even if a boss says to her, well, it's just one of those things, and even if, yes, there is insurance to cover all of these losses, it's harming another person. God would not give to one to harm another. I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's fact. Now, if you're walking along the street and there's $20 on the street, it's clearly for you. Pick it up, put it in your pocket. Don't feel guilty about it at all, right? But no, and who is this? Who is writing this? This is on Facebook.
Yes.
All right, good for you that you took it back, because I think that was the wise and the right thing to do. Now, I've been desperate for money. So any of you out there thinking, well, you wouldn't know what it's like to be desperate. Yes, I would. because I've been in a situation where I've barely been able to feed my daughter, and I've been slobbering over, let her please leave something for me because I have nothing to eat otherwise. And I've been in those desperate straits just like everybody else, or not everybody else, but many other people. So I know what it's like, and I know what it's like when temptation calls. I know what it's like. But I also know that, you know, if you take the money, I think it's called stealing, actually. If you take the money, it's stealing. If you choose to steal, it's your choice. But don't turn around and say, well, you know, God put it in my hand, because God did not. I believe God did not. If it's going to harm someone else, he wouldn't give to you to hurt someone else. No.
Now, she did notice that something was very funny about the comments. She had quite a few people comment on this post. 99% of the men said take the money and run. And 99% of the women said give it back. Yeah. And she, you know, she pointed this out that, well,
I'll be saying that men are more moral than women, because I don't believe that for a second. Not for a nanosecond.
But it was funny that, you know, all the men were saying, you know, well, there was your answer, and all the women were like, no, you're going to get bad karma if you do that.
Well, maybe women are just a little bit wiser then. I don't know that they're more moral, but perhaps they're a little bit wiser. It's like,
oh, Amber says, oh my gosh, that situation happened to me at a bank. I took the money back, then received a gift check in the mail for twice as much.
There you go.
There you are, you see. So, you know, so there you are. So maybe God was answering that prayer because maybe did pass the test. How about that? So that was nice. That's good. Oh, good. That is interesting. All right. How are we doing for... Come here, baby. I want to show people how beautiful you look. He's not having any of it. He's sulking today. I don't know what's the matter with him. Kachoro, come here. Come here. He's not having it. He's having a... I don't know that he's sulking. I think he's just tired, because yesterday I had a very exhausting day, because he was at the groomers for most of the day, and there were all these dogs he had to play with, and they spoil him at the groomers as well because they think he's gorgeous, which of course we think he's gorgeous as well. I think he's just knocked out with all the playtime from yesterday. Right.
Wow.
All right. Do we have another question?
We have one more.
Okay. Which might spark off another question from someone else. You never know.
Candace asks, Rosemary, what are your thoughts on people who claim to channel God?
Good morning, Candace. Good morning, Candace. What do I think about people who claim to channel God?
That mean talk to God?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, their voice comes through. God.
Okay.
God is coming through.
I think we've got two issues here. We're not quite sure whether you're saying, I'm not quite sure, I shouldn't say we, I'm not quite sure whether you're saying that somebody channels God, meaning that they're giving messages from God to other people, because channeling is sort of coming through you and then out to other people. So if you're a person who is telling other people what God says to them, I don't think much of that at all, to be honest. I think if you want to talk to God, go to a church, sit by your bedside, sit in front of your TV, go and sit on the beach, wherever you want to go and sit, go and talk to God. You can do it yourself, and you can hear what God says to you if you put yourself in that quiet place. You don't need somebody else to tell you what God is telling you to do. No. The churches, I mean, how many ministers, how many vicars, how many rabbis, how many, you name every religion you can think of, how many people claim to be the voice of God, and wars have been fought over this. People have been ostracized because of it. People have been condemned because of it. You know, people, you know, the gay community, there's a whole faction of religious bodies who say that it's you know, evil to be gay or to be black or to be, you name it, whatever. There's so much ism, racism, there's so many isms in this world today that, you know, very often the church is responsible for. And I'm not saying that all priests and ministers and rabbis, and I'm not saying they're all bad, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there are certain ones who believe that they are the voice of God. Well, good for them, because I know I'm not, and I could never be, because I would never put myself up there to supposing that I was that good or that amazing. If you want to talk to God, my advice is go sit on a beach somewhere, or go quietly sit, I don't care, sit in your bathroom, wherever you want to sit. Go somewhere quiet, just somewhere quiet where you can be yourself and talk to God, because God will listen to you and he will answer you when the time is right. He may not answer you soon enough, but if you're relying on someone else to tell you what God thinks you should do, then make sure you've got absolute evidence that they are really talking to God on your behalf. And again, that evidence should be, I saw you painting your front door. It should be real evidence that they're giving to you. There was someone, and I can't remember who it was, who a few years ago claimed to be the prophet somebody or another, let's say Isaiah. I'm talking for the prophet Isaiah, but never gave any evidence whatsoever that they were in fact talking to this prophet. I'm still waiting for that evidence, and it never came to me. But I am a very discerning and very critical person in these areas, and my advice to anybody else would be the same thing. Just because somebody says they can do a thing does not mean that they can do it, including myself. So, look for the evidence, wait for the clarity, wait until you absolutely know. And until then, keep your own counsel, and, don't, listen. Wise words come in many forms. Listen to other people's wise words, but the choice of whether you take notice and follow somebody else's advice is yours and yours alone at the end of the day. Do you need to say anything, Madeline, about that?
No, for me, when I want to have a conversation, if you like, with God, I usually go to walk on the beach. Right. And I find a quiet time. Not when I'm walking with friends, walking dogs and things like that. I sort of tend to find a time where it might be wild and woolly out there, and I've got my woolly hat on and the thick coat, and nobody else is out there.
She's in England on the East Coast.
Yes, I'm not here in Florida.
the wild and woolly cold. Not that I experience that anymore. But yes, and people can talk to God in any situation and anywhere at all. What about you, Carolyn? Do you ever talk to God?
I talk to somebody. I'm not necessarily sure.
Well, the word God is only dog spelled backwards. So whatever you call him or her or it's okay with us.
But it's about learning to listen, as you said earlier on.
And when I'm talking about a quiet place, I'm not necessarily talking about physically a quiet place. I'm talking about the quiet place that's within you. Find that quiet place within you where you might want to talk to whoever it is you talk to. Do we have any other questions here?
Well, Beth asks, what about Jesus? He was a man.
And a very great healer, in my opinion. And I know him very, very well. I've known him all my life. What about him? What are you asking about him? I certainly talk to Christ. I believe that he has guided me my whole life. When I've had a difficult patient, or if I've had a patient in great trauma, there have been those moments when I've had my hands on a patient's shoulders and I felt Christ's hands come on top of mine, come over mine. So but that's me. There are a lot of people who've never heard of Christ. There are people all over the world in different countries who don't even know what the word Christian means because they've never had that education. Does this mean that they're going to go to hell? Of course it doesn't. Because each of us have our own faith and our own beliefs, and we should not only nurture and be thankful for our own, we should respect other people, and we should respect the differences that other people have in their beliefs and the way that other people prefer to worship and to believe. That's my...
Did you know that the word Christian actually means Christ-like?
Yes. Yes, I did know that. Yes. And, as much as we all want to be Christ-like, I don't think we could ever attain such
we all fall short.
High standards. And yes, he was a man, and I believe he was a man, and I believe he was also a very great healer. Do I believe he was the Son of God? I think we're all sons and daughters of God. To That's where I am with that one. But that's, everybody has their own belief and their own belief system. And I, for one, am going to respect that. So this is, we don't here talk about my belief as being the only one. We're not here to promote Christianity. We're not here to promote spiritualism either. We're just here to talk about these things, to explore these things, and we're open and welcome very much other people's beliefs, no matter how different they are from our own. This is just an open forum. So with that said, I think we are done for the day. This has been over an hour. We've been chatting away here. Does not time fly when you're having such fun? It is going to be Halloween, isn't it? On
yes, Tuesday.
I didn't wear my witch's hat. Oh my goodness! Didn't wear my witch's hat. We didn't have the pumpkin. Oh, I am wearing black though. That's, oh, thank goodness for that then.
You could do a belated version next Thursday.
We could do a belated, yeah. We could do the witch with the crooked nose and the hat knocked off the head and all of those.
I told you before about my nose. I didn't get out.
Yes. See, can we have the profile? The profile is definitely, she's got a little hook at the end of her nose. And I definitely have a little turn up on the end of mine, tiny turn up at the end of mine. So, you know, there you have it. Who is the ugly sister and who is the pretty sister? What can I say?
God thinks we're all beautiful, and that's good enough for me.
See, there you are then. And what's pretty in one person's eyes is not so pretty in somebody else's. All in the eye of the beholder. So next week, just for that, I'm going to wear the false nose with a wart on the end, and I should be, you know, an ugly something. All right. So if you want to have a sensible conversation, if you want to listen in next week, please just join us next week, because we're here every Thursday. FaceTime, wait a minute, no, not FaceTime. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Instagram I'm very lax with. I'm doing my best, but it's not very good. But anyway, we did put out some cooking things. We put out, what did we put out? We did
gourmet meatloaf.
I made the gourmet meatloaf, which actually, after we filmed, Karen said, you can't really call this a meatloaf at all because it's way too good. What can I say? It's my gourmet special recipe meatloaf. Yes, you can get it if you email us. We can give it to you, or it's coming out in the book very soon.
You were feeding the Christmas cake?
I was feeding the Christmas cake yesterday too, and I'm going to make a mushroom risotto later on today, possibly, and so it's all good stuff. So why am I jumbling about? You can find us on Meetup, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. You can email us, rosemary@rosemaraltea.com. You can ask us any questions you like. Please join us every morning for our healing session, wherever in the world you are, 11 o'clock. Please join us then. And in the meantime, I've got to find that little thing there. In the meantime, until I see you again, till you see me again, please, 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 please have a very, very, I just have to mention my grandson. I don't know why, but he came into my head, my darling boy Reese. If you could just send lots of hugs and kisses to him too. I don't know why I'm saying that to you, but I just feel he needs it right now. All right. In the meantime, until I see you again next week, please, please, please have a very, very, very blessed day.
Bye, everyone.
Say bye, Caroline.
Bye.
Bye.